The diner wasn't fancy, but it had a kind of warmth money couldn't buy. The bell above the door jingled softly every time someone came in, the smell of fresh coffee hung in the air, and the vinyl booths had worn patches from years of shared meals and stories. It was in this quiet corner of town, far from the high rises and marble floors of boardrooms, that something unforgettable happened, something no business deal could ever match in value. It was nearly closing time on a rainy Tuesday when Emily wiped down the counter for the 100th time that night. Her apron was stained, her back ached, but she still managed a smile for every customer. She didn't have much, but she had heart, and most importantly, she had Ben. Ben was 10, born with cerebral palsy and a laugh that could light up any room. He sat in a wheelchair by the jukebox, his favorite spot. Every time the bell on the door rang, he perked up, hoping someone interesting might walk in. But tonight, his eyes were on his mom. She was humming along to the oldies, and he knew what that meant. "Ready?" she asked, winking. Ben nodded eagerly. She pushed the button on the jukebox, and "Can't Help Falling in Love" by Elvis began to play. Emily stepped into the center of the nearly empty diner, bowed dramatically to her son, and with exaggerated flair, extended her hand. Ben giggled. She twirled, she shimmied, and then knelt beside him, gently swaying his arms in rhythm. The few patrons left in the diner smiled quietly at the scene. A mother dancing with her disabled son, not caring who watched. For Emily, this was their tradition, a way to end the day with love and laughter. Unbeknownst to her, sitting quietly in the corner booth in a perfectly tailored suit, was a man whose life had been ruled by logic, numbers, and time. His name was Charles Remington, the Charles Remington. CEO of Remington Enterprises, billionaire, media mogul, and, as the tabloids would say, emotionally unavailable. He had entered the diner incognito, escaping a failed merger meeting in town. His private jet was grounded due to weather, and this roadside stop was merely a detour on his journey. But what he saw next would detour his life in a way he never expected. Charles watched the dance unfold with a strange tightness in his chest. He sipped his coffee slowly, pretending not to watch, but he was captivated. The woman's joy wasn't put on, and the child's laughter, it stirred something in him he hadn't felt in decades. He looked down at his phone, a picture of his son, Jason, stared back. They hadn't spoken in 3 years. Jason had walked away from the corporate world Charles had molded him for, choosing instead to teach music to underprivileged children. Charles had called it foolish. They hadn't spoken since. Emily finished the dance with a kiss on Ben's forehead. The boy beamed. The music stopped. The moment was over, but its echo lingered. Charles stood and walked over to the counter. "You always dance for him?" he asked, voice low. Emily turned, surprised by the stranger's question. "Every night," she said, smiling. "It's our thing." Charles nodded, something unreadable in his eyes. "You're a good mom." "I try." She looked at him more closely now. "You okay?" He chuckled, the sound unfamiliar to even himself. "I don't know. That's the most beautiful thing I've seen in years." She blushed. "He's my world. And sometimes, the world forgets kids like Ben. So, I remind him he's special." Charles sat back down in his booth but didn't take his eyes off them. Later, when Emily walked by to refill his cup, she asked, "You got kids?" He hesitated. "One. Grown. We don't talk." Emily didn't press. Instead, she placed a napkin beside his coffee with a small heart drawn on it. "Sometimes, it's never too late." He left a $100 bill for a $7 tab. But he didn't leave. He stayed until they closed. Until Ben fell asleep. Until Emily carried her son to the old van parked out back, gently strapping him in. Charles watched from the window, something breaking open inside him. The next morning, Emily came to work as usual, never expecting that her life was about to change. That afternoon, a black car pulled into the diner's parking lot. Out stepped a man in a crisp suit and a woman with a clipboard. "Are you Emily Carter?" they asked. "Yeah." "Why?" The man handed her an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Dear Emily. You don't know me, but you touched my soul. You reminded me what love looks like. What courage means. I'm a father who forgot how to be one. I've spent a lifetime building towers, but you built joy in a tiny booth with music and heart. You reminded me of the son I once held in my arms, and the man I failed to be. I want to do something for you, not out of pity, but because the world needs more of what you have. Outside is a vehicle, specially equipped for Ben. There's also a check. Use it however you want. Start a foundation. Take a break. Take a trip. Whatever you do, just keep dancing." There was a number at the bottom. No signature. Emily's hands trembled as she stepped outside. There, gleaming under the afternoon sun, was a brand new van, wheelchair accessible, with Ben's name embroidered on the seats. And in the glove box, a check for $250,000. She collapsed to her knees in shock, tears rolling down her cheeks. Over the next few weeks, news of the mystery donor spread like wildfire. But Emily never cared to know who it was. She used the money to move into a better home, start a small foundation for kids with disabilities, and most importantly, open a dance class for parents and children, where every child, regardless of ability, got to feel like the star of the show. And as for Charles, well, one day, weeks later, he finally made a phone call he had been avoiding for years. "Jason," he said into the receiver. There was silence. "Dad? I saw something." "Someone. A boy dancing with his mom. I realized how badly I messed up." Jason was quiet. Then softly, "I teach a class on Saturdays. For kids with disabilities. You should come." Charles showed up the next week. He brought his own record player. And as he placed a vinyl on the turntable, "Can't Help Falling in Love" filled the room. Fathers danced with daughters. Mothers twirled sons. Charles sat in the back, watching, until a little girl tugged at his hand and said, "You dance." He looked down, heart swelling. "I'd love to." The man who once ruled skyscrapers now danced on linoleum floors. He never built another company after that. But he helped build a community. And for the first time in his life, he understood what true wealth meant. Not in dollars. But in love, laughter, and second chances.